Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to start quoting a very famous Jewish personality who said, and I'm quoting him, "I learned too late that it is much easier and more profitable to steal money from the public in legal ways than in illegal ways." That person was Meyer Lansky, the head of the American mob between the 40s and the 60s in the United States. And you soon will understand the connection. The Israeli correctional authorities have had the privilege of hosting quite few elected officials in prisons in recent years. President, Prime Minister, ministers, member of the Knesset, mayors, senior officials in law enforcement, and many more. The state of Israel ranks very high in the governmental corruption charts in a global comparison. For example, in the Global Corruption Index published in 2014, we took the 24th place in the world. A year later, we dropped to the 32nd place, and in 2016, we rose up to the 28th place. Now hear that. As of 2021, Israel is in 36th place in the Global Corruption Index. Okay, it's not a good place. Among the Western countries, only Italy and Greece are ranked lower. Among all countries of the West, we are considered the most corrupted country except Greece and Italy. Hear that. Most of the Western countries are far and above us in the index. And among the OECD countries, we are in last place on the list with the lowest score, or 56. Our score is 56. A score of 50 would already define the state of Israel as a corrupt country for all intent and purposes. That's amazing. In the Global Comparison Survey carried out over a year ago by the Transparency International Organization in Israel, it became clear that over 73% of Israelis believe that the governing bodies in Israel are corrupt and promote foreign interests. At the head of the corrupt organization are the political parties and, unfortunately, the rabbinical institutions. Only in Greece was the rate higher, 83%. Most Israelis believe that the level of corruption in Israel has increased in the 2 years preceding the survey. They also do not believe that the government wants to fight corruption, or that they can receive proper service from the public sector without the use of personal connections and bribes. According to the survey, 12% of the public in Israel paid a bribe to a certain body last year. That's also amazing. Unfortunately, Israeli law, as well as legal rulings in Israel, have never defined exactly what corruption is. But we all know what is meant by the concept of corruption. When we see it, we know it's there. So what is actually a public or governmental corruption? I would like to base the following on the words of someone who was previously the Director General of the State Comptroller's Office. This concept describes a situation in which the public servant abuses the power and status given to him by virtue of his position to promote foreign interests, and especially his personal interests and those of his associates. At the root of the corruption is the violation of the supreme duty of the elected official or public servant towards the public that appointed him to his position, or whom he is supposed to serve. Elected officials and public servants are the messengers of the public, and to hold power and authority in trust for the public. Power and authority belong to the public and the state and not to the public servants. And it is their duty to use the power and authority entrusted to them for the benefit of the public and to promote those interests for which the power was entrusted to them. Therefore, public corruption is the violation of the public servant's duty of loyalty by taking advantage of the power and authority given to him by virtue of his position without the need to promote the interest that the power and authority were intended to fulfill from the beginning. We must remember that public trust in the governing authorities is one of the most important assets of the governing authority and of the state. When the public loses its faith in the governing authorities, it loses its faith in the social contract that serves as a basis for living together. Honestly, cleanliness and purity of character are the basis of public service and the basis of our entire social structure. The primary duty of the public service, of the public servants sent to their office by and behalf of the public, is therefore to protect three interests protected by the instructions and rules that regulate the behavior of public servants. First, realization of the specific public interest to which the public servant is entrusted. Second, maintaining the purity of the public service. And third, maintaining public trust in public employees and the public system. The examples, unfortunately, are many. Some of them include acts that are clearly seriously criminal offenses, such as, for example, the crime of bribery. The other part are in the twilight zone between criminal law, administrative law, and the public norms. Here, we can find serious acts that corrupt the public service, such as obtaining personal benefits for the public servants or his associates, being in conflict of interest, wasting public funds, biasing tenders, breach of trust, fraudulent offenses, false registration in documents, nepotism, political appointments, protectionism, and many more. All of those, and other like them, corrupt the public service and fall within the definition of corruption. So the question is, why is this happening? And the answer is very simple, because we allow it. In the public sector and in government companies, there is a widespread phenomenon of close appointments in Israel that include family members or party businessmen close to this or that minister. The party centers became mainly of a job seekers, place for job seekers or job sharers. The elected officials at the local government and the Knesset are mainly busy taking care of themselves instead of the public who elected them and appointed them to their position. For example, the salary of members of the Knesset in Israel is about 40% higher than the average salary of their counterparts in the world. And the rate of the salary increase is the double that all other Israeli citizens. Mayors in Israel are tempted to accept huge payment as bribes from contractors who seek to receive high percentage of constructions. Prime Minister in Israel allegedly received large sums of gifts from tycoons who wish to promote their own interest over the public interest. Likewise, according to foreign publications, officers in the Navy find themselves receiving high bribes in exchange for promoting unnecessary arms deal for the IDF. In a normal world and in a reformed country, there is full transparency of the governing system in front of the public that elected it. In a reformed country, there are trusted boards of directors that supervise the activities of the government companies. In a reformed country, the organization's critics and whistleblowers have legal protection. And in a reformed country, there are strong police and enforcement agencies that receive the backing of the legislative authorities to fulfill the duty and mission. When the state does not appoint professional and reliable directors to supervise the activities of the governmental companies, the result is devastating. In recent years, the salaries of employees in governmental companies have increased by dozens of percent. The government companies are accumulating huge losses, but salaries are rising. The total loss, for example, of the government companies in 2012 reached 100 million shekel. A year before, it was 700 million shekel. It all comes from the Israeli budget. From a comparison with other seaports in the world, this is another example, it appears that the degree of efficiency of the port workers here does not exceed 50%, compared to over 70% to 80% in other countries. This is the situation in the Israeli Railway Company, in the Israeli Electricity Company, and in all other governmental companies. Billions of shekels that are supposed to reach the state of Israel from the activities of those governmental companies, and which could have led to a dramatic relief of the tax burden on the citizens, do not reach the state coffers. They flow into the pockets of the largest and most powerful workers' committees. The main problem that makes this situation possible is the failed structure of the government and the election system in the state of Israel, which I'm dealing with it a lot of years. In 2022, the state of Israel is in the end of a fifth election within 3 years, with the sixth already clearly visible on the near horizon, unfortunately. Soon, the 37th government will be established, and with a high probability within about a year or two after, that the 38th government will be also established. The math is very simple. 38 governments during the 74 years of the state's existence. Every less than 2 years, a government changes in the state of Israel. The meaning is that no prime minister manages to serve long enough to build and implement a national strategy. And even those who survive and manage to serve will invest all their time in political survival efforts and daily wars over the existence of one shaky coalition or another, because of structure of the government and the existing election system. In a country where the administration changes every few months to 2 years, no minister can specialize in his field or build and implement long-term strategic plans. In this situation, power passes to officials and lower ranks, and public corruption increases. This creates a continuous situation of governmental instability, the loss of governance, and the weakening of the rule of law. The police and the enforcement arms are weakening. Long-term legislation not being implemented, and change strategies are not being built over the years in Israel. The only solution for this change is the structure of government is to change the governmental system and the election system, to increase stability, to improve the professionalism of government officials, to strengthen the rule of law, and to create a deterrent punishment against governmental corruption. You may say, I'm a dreamer, said John Lennon, but I'm not the only one. In Denmark, New Zealand, Finland, Singapore, and many other countries, It already happens. It can be the reality here too. Thank you. And I spoke about this, but I promise you to answer any questions if there be about any other topics related to terror funds or something else, so it's in your hand. Don't be shy if you have any question.
If you had to build an ethical charter for the next, leaders in this country, what would be your 10 commandments?
From what point of view? From the point of view of the structure of the government?
As guidelines for leaders in politics. So what would you, like you have for medicine, you have the Hippocrates sermon, for pharmacy you have Gallian sermon, but for
First of all, transparency. It's the most important thing in democracy. Transparency. Most of the Israeli citizens does not really know what happens in the governmental system. They just read newspapers, but the reality is not open to them. Secondly, I feel most of the Israeli leaders doesn't really feel like they are messengers of the public. That's what I said here. They work for themselves. If you ask me today, and I know most of the Knesset member and those who works in this system, and I would say carefully that over 80% of them are working for themselves, not for the people. That's the worst case possible in a state, because we are electing them in order to serve us. This is the foundation of democracy. So I would like, first of all, that someone will speak in behalf of me when he is there, but today there is no possibility because the election system in Israel doesn't give any opportunity for any Knesset member to say or talk in behalf of any other citizen. We are not electing Knesset members. We are electing, list of people that we don't even know what is their agenda. Nobody read their agenda of those political parties. So be honest. Come with a feeling of mission, of real mission to serve your country. Work in transparency. And do whatever you need to do in order to help your country and people before you help yourself and your people. So maybe it's our 4 or 5 commandments, but it's enough.
That's very good. Elie Wiesel said that if a writer sits to write a book to make money, you can be sure that it won't be a good book. So this is it.
That's it.
So I'm extremely grateful and appreciative of your transparency. It's impressive. And I want to ask you a very naive question. This is a public conference. It be forecasted, etc. Can your remarkable talk be regarded as a defamation today, a defamation? And can you be sued for what you have said today? Can you be sued for disclosing this lecture today?
No. If somebody can sue me about what I said?
Yes.
No.
Called defamation or defamation.
No, because first of all, I'm not speaking especially about or personally about anyone, okay? I'm speaking about a phenomenon. Second, I bring you a data which is not mine. The global corruption index is not mine. This is the situation in Israel. The facts are that all those people were in prison. and convicted. I'm speaking about people already convicted. Okay, I'm not speaking about rumors or headlines. Yes, people that were in jail and pay their duty, and they convicted. Okay, so I'm not speaking about rumors or estimations or any other things like that.
Yes, thank you for your bright presentation. You address mainly two key issues. The first one being the corruption, the second one being the instability, the political instability. The relationship between the two is unclear for me, as you have very stable regime, even dictators who are very corrupted.
Yes, you're right. Corruption, you might find a corruption in any kind of regime. That's for sure. That's for sure. But while we are speaking about democracies, the importance of people that the citizens elected them and might take the power from them, like in United States. As you can see, every 4 years, the people are going to vote for their representatives in the Senate, okay, and the Congress. If you failed to speak and to help those people, you will not find your place 4 years later, because you need to give details about what you did in the last 4 years for the people elected you. Such a condition cannot be found in Israel, because no member of parliament, of Knesset, is working for a citizen. They're working for the head of their party. That's the main problem. So, on the one hand, nobody really represents me as a citizen. On the other hand, they are doing everything they want without real transparency. On the third, the legislative authorities and the police are very weak here in Israel, without really ability to enforce the law. And if you take one and one and one, it's 3. And the result is devastating, as I said. So you might find the same result also in some dictator in Russia, in North Korea, or other places. But we're considering ourselves as a Western democracy. So I think that and it's a fact, among the Western democracies in the world, we are in the worst place. That's our problem. So you can see that we have another democracies which probably have a little bit corruption, but in the index, they are much, much, much higher than us. That's the problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.